Okay, so this will be my presentation on exchange rates. So let's look at nominal exchange rate. So that is the price of a currency in a country in comparison to the price of currency in another country. So if we wanted to convert 1 Canadian dollar to US dollars, we would be able to get 0.802 US dollars for every 1 Canadian dollar. And you can see the respective values for each different currency below. Now let's look at real exchange rates. So that is the rate at which goods and services in one country can be exchanged for goods and services in another country. So we have the real exchange rate, which is equal to the nominal exchange rate multiplied by the domestic price index divided by the foreign price index. Now this equation will be useful for some questions later on. Now, what is actually the difference between nominal exchange rate and real exchange rate? So, the nominal exchange rate only describes relative value. So, it never actually shows you the true amount of goods and services that you can obtain in your main currency. This is why economists prefer to use real exchange rates. Real exchange rates are preferred because it gives you more accurate information, and it actually shows you the true value of goods and services your currency can actually get you, as opposed to a direct conversion from one currency to another. Now, let's look at supply and demand for currency, and let's use the Canadian dollar as an example. So, if Canadian goods become more desirable, people are going to want to buy more Canadian goods. If Canadian goods become cheaper in comparison to other goods, people are going to want to buy more Canadian goods. Or, if Canadian interest rates become more favorable than foreign interest rates, what this is going to do is this is going to attract more investors because they're going to be able to get a better return on their money. So, all of these things will cause the demand of the Canadian dollar to shift to the right and the supply to shift to the left, and vice versa. So, let's look at some questions. So, you've been saving up to buy a new European sports car, and now you need to figure out if it will be cheaper for you to buy one from your dealership down the street, or whether it might be cheaper for you to buy it from Europe. Now, let's say it costs you 55,000 Canadian dollars to buy it from the dealership down the street, and it costs you 35,000 euros to order it from Germany after everything is said and done. So, which is the better price? Now, in order to do that, we're going to need to pull the conversion rate from Canadian dollar to euro, and we're also going to need to use that equation from earlier. So, we want to calculate the real exchange rate to see what the better price is. Now, we're going to plug in the nominal exchange rate, which is 1 Canadian dollar for 0.6711 euros, and then we have our domestic price and our foreign price. So we'll just plug in all these numbers, and what this actually comes to tell us is that it's going to end up being 1.05458 times as expensive to buy the car from the dealership down the street. Now, since the car is more expensive to buy in Canada, once we've calculated the real exchange rate, what this tells us is that it would just make more sense to order the car from Germany. Now, what will happen to the Canadian dollar if Canadian goods become the new worldwide preference? So, we have two graphs here. So, the demand for the Canadian dollar will increase because foreign currencies will want to buy the Canadian dollar in order for them to buy more Canadian goods because they have become the new preference. So, Canadians will also want to buy more Canadian goods, so they will stop selling foreign currencies, which is going to decrease the supply. And the value of the Canadian dollar with respect to other currencies will increase. Therefore, the exchange rate of the Canadian dollar will increase. And we can see that from the graph in the bottom right here. So we can see that the supply is shifting to the left because the Canadians want to hold their Canadian dollar and they're less interested in other currency because Canadian goods have now become the preference. They also want more Canadian goods. And the demand, we can see that other people are trying to buy more Canadian currency because they want to buy more Canadian goods. So the demand is shifting to the right. And for my citations, I got everything from our textbook, the Hubbard, Glenn, Koninsky, O'Brien, Patrick Rafferty, Macroeconomics Canadian edition, and I also used the currency matrix in order to find all the values that we needed for those questions, as well as for the values of the Canadian dollar on the first slide. Thank you.